open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your voice and image, I'm 98% sure, is being recorded at this moment in time.
It is.
Okay.
That's the green light.
Oh, the green light. I just know that they collect the microphones.
Yeah, he turned it out. He
Yeah.
brought it in here a while.
Yeah.
I think the green light might just mean power.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the cameras are on you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We're important enough now we get recorded. I remember when we used to hide in a corner of a room and nobody noticed we had meetings. Okay, so Eloise would now like to know what's going on with school.
Well, in terms of,
We've danced around and we don't know how much was expected of the town of Berlin versus how much was expected from the town of Boylston. Were we working with factual numbers or general numbers?
gotcha. All right, so if you jump to this lovely handout I gave you on the back, it has some green on it. We had the interim superintendent, the finance director, and the school committee chair at the finance committee meeting last night. And they did confirm these numbers. These are the numbers that they voted on at their March 11th school committee meeting as the final budget. However, they can go lower on the capital, and they said they recognized, and especially once we told them we have most likely 1.2 million in free cash, and their request totals 1.662 million, that's going to have to go over multiple years. So they selected their top priorities, and I have them in green for you. I also had them totaled up, but that column didn't print. They total up to $436,000. If you flip over to the free cash plan, I put them in at $436,022 is what those total up to. This one, the free cash plan, I had the total amount on for Berlin Boylston on here.
Oh, it's 37,893, the balance?
Nope. Right about halfway through the page, it says
Okay, I see it,
PBRSD.
43602, yep.
Yep, so that is the total if you were to fund all 7 of their top requests.
Now their stuff comes out of the operating budget.
It goes in the operating budget, but then we put the corresponding amount of free cash in the operating budget to offset it.
Is that for the entire school budget? Or is
Nope,
that
just for capital.
just for capital items?
Yep.
Is that a new thing?
Nope. It's kind of an odd thing. I'm not used to seeing it, but that's how we've done it here. So
How are you used to seeing it?
I am used to seeing a standalone capital article that gets directly funded through free cash, but because now it's a regional school district and you have to vote it as one number, they actually, we talked about this last night, they said some places do make them pull out capital that they've seen, but we've always just done it as part of the budget and then so you're not really putting free cash in the budget, you're offsetting the capital that's in the budget with the free cash. But if you do look at the summary page of the budget, there is free cash going in as a revenue source, so that confuses people sometimes. That's the only reason I don't like it, because then people go, oh, you're using free cash to fund your operating budget. No, that's specifically for the school capital.
Can you explain free cash to me? Does it get, like, public safety mitigation gets money added to it every year?
Yep.
Does free cash also get money added to it every year? And where does that money come from?
It does. So they love to say free cash is neither free nor cash.
Right.
So what it is it rolls whatever you don't use in the prior fiscal year operating budget, plus whatever you don't use from free cash, any local receipts that come in that are in excess of what you've appropriated as part of the budget, and what they love to call miscellaneous unanticipated
It's odds and
revenue.
ends.
So say you sell a
Yeah.
vehicle, you know, that's not something you budgeted for because you didn't anticipate it. So that rolls over to free cash. So what happens is at the end of the year, the accounting and treasurer's office will close out the budget. They'll see, first of all, how much is left from the operating budget that didn't get spent. Then they'll see how much came in revenue that didn't get spent. and that becomes your free cash. So you have to have the whole year balanced, and then that all gets balanced between the treasurer and the accountant, and then it goes to the state for certification.
And on average, can you guess how much we usually roll over in free cash?
So the free cash plan that is set by the FinCom says you have to roll, or you should roll over a minimum of 25%. That is the DOR standard. So I would never be comfortable recommending you roll over less than 25%.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But our free cash was higher because during the COVID years that everybody was very tightly budgeting, and there were also a lot of services and things you couldn't do during COVID.
Right.
So the free cash was higher for a few years when I came in. Now, the caveat I'll give you on the free cash is we are still waiting for the state to certify it. And the reason that's important is because there are certain things that will hit free cash in FY24, and then we get the free cash back in FY25. And it depends on how the state classifies that money when it closed out during the fiscal year. If they kind of will say, okay, well, you didn't get all those receipts in by June 30, so that's gonna come off your FY25 free cash, or sorry, FY24 free cash, but you'll get it back in FY25 because it rolled over into the next fiscal year.
Right.
So what June does is she puts a list together of what free cash could be, and then subtracts out all the things that might get taken out by the state. And we haven't gotten that yet. So the most conservative number that we're comfortable with, that it won't go lower than, is 1.2. It could come in a little higher, but we just don't know. So I'm running with 1.2 right now.
Sounds fair. What was our free cash last year? Do you remember?
It was higher, I can tell you. I can pull up my spreadsheet. But one thing I wanted to point out was the FinCom has been talking a lot about free cash because their plan is also to look at how much do we put into stabilization, OPEB, special articles, and they talked last night about not putting money into general stabilization this year because we have just about $2 million in general stabilization. And the benchmark is you want to have around 3 to 5%, closer to 5, of your budget in the general stabilization account. We're now running a $17 million budget. We have $2 million in stabilization. We're sitting pretty well. So we could take a year and take that 10%, which is $120,000, and not put it in general stabilization. The FinCom and Select Board are also talking about only putting $50,000 in OPEB and not funding capital stabilization. In fact, maybe looking at that as a potential revenue source and or general stabilization. So there's a lot of moving pieces going on here, but let me get into my file and I'll give you the free cash from the past couple of years. Now it's gonna yell at me. It wants me to log into the VPN. That's gonna take me just a second. I'm gonna have to give it a code, sorry. Alright. The other thing to remember is we've cut our budget very thin this year, like razor thin on line items, which will result in less free cash going forward because we have budgets that fluctuate a lot. So typically you budget at the higher amount for certain ones, like health insurance. And because we had such a huge budget deficit with the schools, the direction I received from the Select Board was to take the expense line items basically down to razor thin, and we are very razor thin at this point with the budget. So that will impact free cash because likely almost all of the operating budget and potentially then some from the reserve fund will get used. So it's a little bit
Are you
dicey.
anticipating hiring new people,
No.
even for police?
There is one position that was half funded in FY25. It was a January through June position. The other half of that position is in FY26, but you basically committed to that when you funded half of it in FY25. That is the only new, if you will, position. They also want to get rid of the COA van. That was discussed last
The what?
night. The COA van. We have no van drivers right now. We can't find van drivers. We've been trying for 9 months to recruit them. The van costs a lot in maintenance, gas, and expenses, and we've got a grant right now through the Regional Transit Authority, Metro West, that's taking people door to door in Berlin and in Hudson, and also to points in Marlboro. And I always say including Apex, in case you want to go axe throwing, because that's always a fun thing to do. So that they wanted us to put some of that funding towards expanding those services and making them free, and maybe working with the WRTA to do some services to the Worcester area, because the grant is not, plus nobody was really taking it. We have 1 or 2 people here or there taking it,
How much are you
At a
gonna, how
time.
much are you gonna save?
at least 15,000.
Didn't we just buy a new van, or did we not actually buy the new van?
The van is used. I don't know how long ago it was purchased, but it may have been purchased recently, but it's not a new
No,
van.
It's used. It's like a 2017 or something like that.
And it's been having a lot of maintenance issues. So we
what-
would sell it on municipal potentially,
What
or
happened to the old van, do we know?
Hmm?
What happened to the old van?
No clue.
that I don't know, that predated me.
I mean, I can see where that would make sense.
Yeah, I can see where that would make sense.
As long as you can drive, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's once.
No, but I'm saying is, if we expand that to what we're doing for
With
the other one,
RTAs,
then it would make sense.
right?
You know, to just, if we haven't had that for 9 months, then I guess everybody's doing okay if we're not using it.
Well, that's the thing, it was reduced to Tuesday and Thursday to begin with, and it was like, I think 4 to 6 hours a day, so it was limited anyways in what you
Yeah.
could do. The good news is they're tracking all the ridership data from the new grant. From the 17th of February, when it started, to about a week ago, when I asked for data, they had already had, it was either 9 or 11 unique riders and over 33 rides that have been taken in a month. We never had that kind of volume on a van.
That's the regional transit authority.
Yep.
That's good. So I don't have an issue with that.
It runs more hours. It's 6:45 a.m. to 6:45 p.m. Monday through
Nice.
Friday, and 8 to 6 on Saturday.
Very
so
nice.
people seem to like that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I've seen that up the Market Basket a lot.
Yeah, and it'll go door to door. It's called a micro transit grant. So anywhere in Berlin and Hudson, it'll pick you up at your house, take you directly to anywhere you want to go, and come back.
Nice.
You gotta call them. It's almost like an airport shuttle. You call them
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes before you need to leave. So let me give you free cash for last year. Okay. So your free cash for FY23 was $1,777,874. Remember, we had a lot of sevens in that one. Yeah.
Could you repeat that? I'm trying to write it down.
Oh, sure. 1,777,874
So we lost $500,000.
used
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We did not replace.
and did not replenish. Yep. So, and then in 22, that was a really high free cash year. That was $3,077,287. And that's, you're coming off of the COVID years of not having a lot of spending.
Can, this CPAC thing on town that I'm totally against, but CPAC, they're spending, I see where they're spending their money, and I just don't understand why we couldn't spend it a little bit better than what we're doing.
The CPA money?
Yeah,
I would recommend you go to their meeting and talk to them. They're created by town meeting. They have their money, and they do have specific uses for it. It has to be historic, recreation and open space, or,
And housing,
thank you.
10%.
but,
Housing.
or historical.
Yep.
So I see,
Yep.
you know, I see one of the things they're doing is, we're talking about, for instance, they're talking about Freddie paving the 1870 driveway. Why can't CPA do that? Why can't we use that money instead of taking it out of the DBW money?
So I know they talked about it at the library, and one of the things is if it's things on the building, it has to be designated a historical building under the Mass Historic, and the
Yeah.
problem with that is then there's a whole bunch of
Yeah, I know.
regulations that come with it. Like, you can't touch things without doing it in a very specific way.
Yeah, but the library's not on the.
It's not, so you'd have to make it a historic building to use money there. 1870, as far as I know, is not on the historic register
Oh,
of
it's not.
buildings either. Is it on there?
I thought it was, yeah.
It is. And the
So-
Bullet House is on the National Register.
Yeah,
What
so
a
that's a
waste of money.
possibility.
Well, the Bullet House is the first house in Berlin.
Well, one of the things that I saw on the CPA was fixing the steps of the 1870.
Yep.
That's CPA money they're using,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense.
So what I would recommend too, if you're interested in the historical component of it, talk to June Miller, who's chair of the Historical Commission too. I know that they requested some money this year for historical purposes, but I'm sure they would welcome the input on CPA projects as well.
I mean, as capital, we're still supposed to have an opinion about them.
You don't want my opinion.
Well, we're supposed to take a vote
No.
on their projects.
Anytime I have to pay 3% more in tax money, I don't like it.
Did they come?
They did not come.
No.
But let me
No,
am I confusing them with last year? No, they did not come.
they did not come.
They did not come. Their schedule is always so wonky that usually when they come to us, they have a general idea of what they might be thinking about.
Right, because usually this is earlier.
Right.
So they're not set.
Right.
So I happen to know, because it's in the warrant,
Yep.
what they're proposing. If when we get to the warrant, we can go through it
I
and
think,
talk
yeah.
about that.
I think we should get through our stuff first.
Yep.
And then start talking about the other things that have been set that we just need an opinion on.
So what are we starting on?
Well, let me go back to Kristen's number from before. So your optimum number of free cash that we can spend on capital items is $360,000.
That is the recommended
Yep.
amount. Now, I will tell you that both FinCom and the Select Board last night were talking about the need being high enough to use more than that. So if you look at the free cash plan that I've laid out, this one with the yellow stripe across the
Mhm.
bottom, I filled in what we're gonna need most likely for town meeting articles. The only one that's up in the air is prior year bills. I'm still waiting on a few of those, but I rounded up high to 5,000. I don't think it's gonna be that much, but just say it's 65,000 that I need for the warrant. I put in the total capital plan from the town and from the district. Nothing to general stabilization, 50 to OPEB like they were talking about, nothing to capital, and rolling over 300,000. You could theoretically fund everything there. You'd have $37,000 left over, but you're not putting into capital stabilization, which I don't think anyone's very concerned about at this time. They're definitely not concerned about general stabilization. The problem is the schools, as you've heard, if it's not this year, it's next year. So, for funding a lot of those items that are on the list. It's a tough call. And FinCom was kind of getting into it a little last night, and I said, why don't you wait and hear from Capital first and see where Capital's head is kind of at with regard to this. But they did have this conversation about allocating potentially more than the 30%. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And I don't know if you guys have ranked the town projects or have a sense of where you might want to go with the town projects. Is that maybe an easier place to start?
It might be an easier place to start, but we have not ranked them other than the departments themselves
Okay.
ranking. Let me step back and say, would it be easier to start with public safety? Because that comes out of mitigation, we don't have to argue about free cash, and then we know that that's out of the way.
That is an even better idea, and that one is on the back of the free cash sheet. And as I reported, we got the Highland Commons assessment in. It says not yet received on here, because I realized I didn't update the note, but we did receive it last week. So our current balance in public safety mitigation is $679,149.
And that's after the, expenditure for the, wages, salaries.
Yes, so what I did was I included the 262,000 for the FY '26 PD wages that go in the budget.
Okay.
We actually gained a little bit of money too. There were 2 articles that the state told June she could close out back into the fund without having to go back to town meeting. She checked with DOR on that. So you picked up $25,956 and $1871 from some Bridge Academy funding that is no longer being used because no one's going to the Bridge Academy. So.
Okay.
And you have $145,274 in requests for public safety mitigation, if I added
So-
that math up right?
So we're below the mitigation money then, right?
You are.
But that 400, you got a 435,000 total, but that's for the whole list here, not just.
Right. So,
That's all clumped into highway, library and everything.
If you go up one line though, go to the bottom and go up one line, I split it out between free cash and mitigation.
so I'm going to propose that we vote to fund all of the police items for a total of $44,164 out of, public safety mitigation, which is the fire.
Is this here?
It's the it's the bottom section
Kristen,
for
did you bring another
police.
pen with you?
Oh,
By
okay.
any chance?
Okay.
You have another one?
No.
Oh.
But we can share, because mine already has numbers on
Oh,
it.
there's
Oh.
a pencil back here.
I could do that.
Awesome.
That's fine. I left mine in my truck and I was too lazy
I
to
was gonna
walk
say, I
back
can
out
run
with
back
it.
to the office. if
That's
you need.
okay. I can scribble with that.
Um,
Yeah, I'll give that back to you so I don't walk away with it.
No, you won't. I love
That's
my
actually a
pens.
better point than I have at work.
There's flying projectiles.
It didn't break that.
But so that is just the phone system and the firearms upgrade. To
Yep.
me, those sound like very undebatable items.
No.
But if somebody wants to debate them, I'm happy
No, it's,
No, I second that.
Yep.
Let's go
Okay.
for it.
to. Okay.
definitely.
Any discussion? No. All those.
John seconded.
And then I'm supposed to ask if there's discussion. I don't know why it has to go
No.
that way. But those are the
In
rules,
case somebody wants to say no.
right? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Okay, so police are done. That was easy.
Get rid of the rest of mitigation, which would be the fire
Fire.
EMS.
So fire though, they have this,
The ambulance.
so their ambulance they're asking for next year.
They were, although, I think, did Chief send an email about wanting to know if he could take it out of ambulance receipts reserved? Hold on.
But he's not asking for it for this year.
Right.
Oh, if he could get the money, he would.
He is, so he sent me, so he is, down in Florida, actually, they have to inspect the new ambulance that we ordered 30-some odd months ago that is finally ready. So he actually wrote me this last night. He said, I meant to type up a memo and send to you to detail out the ambulance replacement I put into the capital committee, but I haven't had time to yet. In a nutshell, we have the money in the ambulance receipts fund, as there is over $700,000 in there right now.
Really?
Wow.
I am not sure what the tariffs will do by waiting another year on aluminum and steel, but ordering a truck in July would likely avoid any increase if they were to impose tariffs next year.
What I don't understand is we have 2 ambulances now,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a 3rd one coming in.
We're replacing,
We'll still have 2.
yes.
And the other one will take 30 to 36 months to come in. So that one is on its last couple of years. So by the time we get the new one, the other one will be ready to be phased out.
But we're not gonna pay for it.
Nope, you don't pay for it till it comes in.
Right, so,
But we have to usually put a deposit, or
You have
a
to have the
deposit down.
money
Yeah.
before.
well,
Or
what's,
you can-
that's the
We
question,
have to
was it?
appropriate it at town meeting before we can
I know,
enter
but
into a contract.
we don't need 319,000 for this year.
We would have to appropriate it at town meeting,
Yeah.
because you need to be able to show that you have the amount to fully fund the vehicle. Because what if you funded part of it, and then next year town meeting said no to the rest? Then what do? You only have half a vehicle.
Just a car, yeah.
Just trying to get around, see, I'll try to think of a way of getting around it, but that's actually not gonna be paid, so all we're doing is say, yeah, we approve it, but,
Right, and it's not
And it's-
mitigation money now.
And it's out of ambulance receipts, which
Oh.
in my opinion, it probably should have been
in the first
in
place.
the first place.
Right.
So ambulance
But
paid
how
for
much
itself.
will this proposed ambulance cost?
So it is still the $319,129 as far as I know.
So you're looking at not getting that till fiscal year 28, 29.
3 years from now.
Yeah, so
26,
29.
29, yeah.
Yeah.
29.
319.
But if we put that in town meeting, which is fine, but make sure we tell them it's gotta come out of the ambulance fund.
Ambulance, yeah.
Yep, so
That's-
this
that's
needs to
fine.
be changed, ambulance receipts reserved.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm just checking on the amount, cause in the email, let me just say, he just refers to the one that he put on capital, so,
The one that I have on my list says 450,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one here, you got, yeah, there is one that's 450,000.
Well,
See if I've
is
got-
it he has to split?
Yep, 450,000 for fiscal 27, yep.
So maybe it's 319 from public
No.
safety and the balance from,
No, everything from ambulance receipts, they have $700,000 in ambulance
So-
receipts.
He can call us in 10 minutes if you'd like.
Okay, let's
If you
place
wanna
a
put a pin in
hold.
that. He's on the bus back from the airport.
I bet he was in Ocala. Cause
So-
I drive by a place that builds fire trucks and
So
ambulances.
anyways, so we're gonna table that one for now?
For the 10 minutes.
That would be
All right.
awesome.
Okay, so the thing for me that is discussable, I feel like, on the current FY '26 request list for fire EMS is the maintenance equipment fund of 30 grand a year.
Where's the meat?
where is it?
Where's that?
That's the
So-
third line down.
So that one's gone because
Oh.
you guys said it wasn't really a capital item, so what I did was I made a special article out of it, and we actually expanded that, and you'll see it in the warrant. The select board felt that that should be a building and vehicle maintenance fund in
For
general.
everybody?
For everybody, and it would require the,
Selectmen
select board
vote.
to approve spending and capital for anything over 10.
I saw that in the warrant. I just didn't realize it was the.
I know,
maintenance
cause
and
it changed,
equipment.
it morphed. It's now 50,000 for buildings and vehicles.
So that's not on this though, right?
Nope, that's gone.
Good.
Okay, well, it takes out the debate.
So other than that, the forestry gear, rescue tool, CPR assist, turnout gear,
The rest of those things give us a total of $99,610. If we do everything on his list.
we got a Hawken showing 101, 110.
Yeah,
Do I have maybe a,
What?
She's showing 101, 110.
I
She
could have a number error.
she has the 30,000.
30,000 isn't even in the
For the-
column.
Oh, it's in my column.
It's not here.
Oh, you guys are on a different page.
You're not on the new one?
Okay, wait.
There you go.
Where's my difference here? Forestry gear,
I was
26.7.
gonna say, let's check the smaller
Rescue
numbers.
tool, I have 29,000 for that. CPR.
Let me pull up the drive, cause I think I loaded it all on the drive and I can double check.
Huh. Maybe it's just my math error.
It could be mine too, I've been entering a lot of numbers, so I don't wanna say that it's not me. Capital, FY '26.
So I will say my rescue tool replacement I have 29,000 on our list, and you have 28.5.
Equipment
Don't know
replacement, is that the one?
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Oh, no, that's the 30,000. I'm trying to figure out what he calls it on this. Rescue
Rescue tool replacement.
equipment, oh, he calls it equipment replacement. I called it the wrong thing. I have,
Well, now I have 75,000 in my math.
go up.
So what is that rescue tool? Do you know?
Is June caught up
It's
with
do you like
last
car
year's
crash?
budget?
And they do is they put the jaws
She
of
has
life in
closed
there.
out
and
FY
They
'24,
pop open doors.
and everything is submitted to the state.
You know,
Why do I see
Leave
90?
a new ones already?
these are the newer ones are,
Okay,
you don't
now I
have
get,
to, they're. you
now I
can
get
use
101,610.
batteries now, and you don't have to lug a compressor
oh, no, wait,
with
because I
air
have an
and
extra
everything.
$500.
They're all new.
That's
I thought
why.
we had that one.
Oh, do we
already.
match now?
Yeah,
No,
now we
it's-
match.
The one
Awesome.
we've had, I guess, is like 10 years
Mostly.
old.
Really?
I think that we said, he came in asking for $28,500
Right.
for the rescue tool replacement, and we said, take an extra $500, make it 29,000, and just make sure you cover your expenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
so
think that's why I
make
have the
that one
note that it's.
29K. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I plug that guy in and make that 29,000, then I get 101,610.
101,610, that's what I get,
101,610?
yeah. And too many pieces of paper.
I know, I'm sorry, I
Um,
handed all out paper.
And we have 600 and, no, wait. Minus, where's our police, 44. My God, my double vision. 1, 6, 4. So after funding police out of public safety mitigation, we have $634,985
Left.
left. If we funded everything for fire, we would have $533,375,000 left in public safety mitigation.
So what happens if that, if they don't take this, what happens to that? Does it just sit there?
If it doesn't get past a town meeting, you mean?
No. We're approving what? What's the total we're approving?
The fire and
101,610.
EMS.
Fire and fire and, it's like 100 and,
45.
140
$99,000 something like that.
$146,000.
Yep.
Right?
Does it just stay in the fund? Yep, until we use it in a future year.
Yeah, okay, so they don't have to, it doesn't,
It doesn't disappear.
Nope.
you know,
That money
Because-
has its specific flavor in that it's public safety,
Because
so it
I'm
doesn't
gonna-
go free cash.
I'm gonna ask you a stupid question.
No such thing.
The chief is looking to spread out turnout gear over 5 years. As I remember, does he say that everybody gets a new set every year? Or are they gradually, I'm trying to remember what he
He's trying
said.
to do a rotation, I thought,
Right.
rotating them through every
Right.
few years, kind of like how the cruisers go, if I
Okay.
remember
So
correctly.
that's
I
why-
would agree with that.
That's why he's got that spread out, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to buying it all at once and then in 5 years having to buy it
Right.
all at once and then in 5 years.
Because guys are
having
gonna
to
change sizes and stuff
Yeah.
too.
Exactly.
buy it.
Okay,
And some things are gonna get more
Is there any reason why
damaged.
we couldn't take the fire overhead door that's currently in highway, who would oversee it, and pay for that out of public safety? I mean, it's for the fire.
That's a good question.
that's a 5, yeah.
It is, it's for the building, Let me ask Miss June. see if
Like
I
how
can get her-
Eloise thinks.
I like your thinking on that one, that's really good.
Is there anything else we can do that with?
But that is part of the fire department, so it should come out of that, I would think.
I think that's ambiguous. It can come out of wherever you have the extra money, be it fire or facilities.
I mean, that's
or-
20 grand, I mean, it's not a lot of money, but we got the extra basically in fire mitigation, public safety. That gives us a little bit more,
Yeah.
20 grand more for
And they've
gun
already taken out the payroll?
Yeah, if you look at, this little guy here, the one that doesn't have any pretty colors,
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
you'll see what I did was I took out, FY twenty-five capital, the money we put in the wages in the FY twenty-five budget, the article for fire details. That would be up to me. The 116,000 that we did in December for the school public safety swap-a-rooney. The Reno project that we put 455 in.
Right.
The cruiser that we funded in December, which was going to go on this capital plan, but we did it in December because
So
To
we
save
could
money.
order it.
exactly. And then it also takes into account the wages for the three lowest paid police officers for the FY '26 budget.
Okay.
Why was that cruiser so expensive?
That's how much they all cost now.
What's
Unless you
that?
want electric, then they're over 90.
What's that?
Why was that cruiser so expensive?
Oh.
And is that what we
Ford
approved?
has a monopoly.
No, Ford,
Wow.
no, it's not Ford that has a monopoly.
Oh.
It's the dealer in that area that has the monopoly.
Yeah, but Eric said they come off the state bid list.
they do.
They do, but
and they
they
go
have,
up every year.
they
by
have
thousands.
they have a monopoly. And that's the problem. They're basically, and then you gotta, once it comes off there, it's gotta go to the retrofit company. It was, used to have been MHQ, it used to be. So what's the problem when you're green, and it's not a good thing?
You can buy BMW with that kind of money.
No kidding.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
I think you need 100,000 to buy a BMW.
Depending on how cheap you wanna be.
Yeah.
I might have to buy a new
Anyway,
car, and I was looking, like, I don't have an extra. You know, my car payment used to be $200 a month.
So
now
are
it's
we,
gonna be
are we gonna
800.
vote on the fire department now?
He should be calling any minute.
Who's that?
The fire
The
department.
fire chief.
Oh.
Do we need, aside from ambulance, do we need to debate?
I'm
anymore?
happy with it.
Yeah. Are we gonna put the door on that?
That's what she's checking out now.
It seems that we could. So, I am comfortable with doing that. I mean, it is for the fire station.
Right.
So, I mean, that is a
If
public
the
safety
door doesn't
expense.
open, we can't have our fire truck come out.
Well,
Right.
that
Oh, they
would be
could just
true.
blast through it.
Okay, but then if the door doesn't close,
Now
we have
you
now
got an
broken
issue.
a fire truck.
So if I just change that line, I know it's under highway, but if I change it to public safety mitigation funds as the source of funding.
Yeah.
So it becomes 121,610.
Nope. It's,
Yeah.
What? 121.
You're talking out of public safety mitigation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm talking putting it back into the fire
Yep.
for 20 grand.
So that, here we go. That makes your public safety 165,776.
Okay.
Hi, Chief. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You're on speaker with the Capital Committee. Sorry, I know you were on a bus.
No, but it's okay. We're just transferring over to the car, so
Okay.
my apologies.
No problem. Thank you for calling. There were just some questions about the ambulance, and I did read the email that you sent me yesterday. But we weren't sure if the cost. One of us had $450, and one of us had $319.
Yep. So the 450, I think, is the aggregate cost if we went with the ambulance that the company that we just went through for this ambulance that we're getting. I think that I believe the cost of that truck was $425. So I think the 450 was an estimated increase from that. And what I did is I reached out to a couple other companies just to say, hey, you know, is the 425 that we paid, you know, is that, you know, a reasonable number type of thing. The 319 was and what I don't know yet is whether or not it's the exact same truck that we currently have. I believe it's going to be close, but and some of the things that I need to research on that is the flooring that they have in the ambulance. The one that we just had built has a PVC flooring and it's all metal shelves. so that there is no wood in there. So if there's a water leak from the roof or something like that occurs, we don't get the swelling and damage that occurs from when the wood absorbs that moisture. And I just need to make sure the other ambulance has that in there. So I'm not sure that the ambulance will be. And the other thing is that quote was from back in the early fall last year, not last year rather. Excuse me. That was from late summer. And I'm not sure if that price is going to go up. I'm sure it probably will, but I'm not sure it's going to be as low as $319.
Do you think if we go with the 450 number, that we're going to be covered?
Yes, we would be covered, and I'm going to do everything I can not to spend $450,000 on a truck.
Right, but that way there we're covered though.
Yes, that would cover it for us. That would completely cover us, so that it would cover the expense of an ambulance. Even if I used the same company and did the exact same ambulance, I don't foresee that ambulance is going to be over $450,000.
Okay.
And we can do all of that out of ambulance receipts reserved because you have the $700,000.
Yes, looking at the ambulance receipts reserve, we have, and I apologize. I'm not very. I should have had the number, and I don't. But it's close to like 425. I mean 725. I believe is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's more than the ambulance.
Yeah,
That's
all we
I
care
needed
about
to
is
know.
more than the ambulance.
Yes, it is more than the ambulance.
And any additional expenses.
Right. We just want to be able to put it into town meeting that we approve it, and then that way there it could be it's coming out of your ambulance receipts and not off of the public safety.
Nope, it won't be coming off of public safety or taxpayer money, if you will, by raising taxes. It'll come out of that receipt. We have enough to cover it, and it is that $700,000. So it would cover us for that. And and then it's a matter of just figuring out, doing the ordering and stuff when it comes in as to, if it's a 2-year order time or if it's a longer, and what the situation is going to be with the aluminum tariffs and the steel tariffs.
Right.
Ask him about the fire overhead door.
Oh, how would you feel if we used public safety mitigation money for the overhead door replacement to free up a little bit of free cash
For the overhead door replacements.
at the fire station, at the bay?
Oh, for the bay doors. Okay, I'm following you now. Okay. The only thing that I would, and you guys will know more than me because I'm not sure how it's written in that, if the money can come out for that. I know sometimes when they do those bylaws for the ambulance receipt accounts, they can only go towards, if you will, medical expenses and stuff. And when I say that, it's for, the staffing of the ambulance, the equipment that goes on the ambulance, and the ambulances themselves.
Well, no. I think you're taking it wrong. We're not even talking about the ambulance at all anymore. All right.
You're talking about the station.
We're talking about the station,
Yep.
but we're talking about coming out of the public safety mitigation fund, not your ambulance fund.
Yes.
My apologies. Yep, okay, I'm on board with you now. Yeah, I do not have an issue with that at all.
Okay.
I think that's an appropriate use of that money, again, to lessen the impact on the taxpayers and stuff. And I think the flip side to that is the amount of money that I shouldn't say, we will be having a savings because, as I'm sure you guys heard from Fred, those doors are in pretty rough shape, and there's a lot. I mean, we have birds that get through the doors because the seals aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
We're losing a ton of heat through those. So,
Then is it
absolutely,
better
I'm
to
on
just do
board with
the
that.
3 doors?
Yep.
Eloise just asked a really good question. She said,
Yes.
would it be better to do all 3 doors now?
Because we have the money.
Because we have the money.
I believe it would be because there is a significant heat loss through that building. When it rains, it actually when you get the wind with the rain, it actually comes through the doors.
All right. That's easy. That's fine.
Yeah. So I am supportive of that, and I thank you guys for that because I think that'll make a big difference.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry I had to do this over phone and I didn't have all the exact numbers for you.
That's all right. You
No
answered that question.
problem.
That's good.
Okay.
All right. You guys have a great night. Thank you.
You
Thank
too,
you,
thanks.
Chief. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So we take the overhead door out of there and make that 60 grand up out of fire and EMS.
Because I think he upped the price, like proportionally over those years.
This is Freddie gave us this. This is not a good price.
Oh, no, I'm saying it is a good price, but I'm saying the next 2 years, I think he increased it assuming it would go up.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to buying 3 at once.
Correct.
Right.
I'd like to,
Now, they're replacing the whole door or
Yeah,
just
the whole door.
seals?
The whole doors.
yeah, it
But
comes
they're
as
not
a
that
kit.
old. Those doors.
So it's
18,
roughly
50.
$6,300.
Huh? They're, what, they're 12, 15 years old,
Oh, 1999.
99.
They're
Are they?
originally, so
26
when they
years
put
old.
it in.
Oh, wow.
The one that they're actually replacing is got it's twisted out of shape. That's the one they had to want to replace.
Okay,
But if we do that now, we're gonna probably save a lot of money down the road.
right.
Isn't that a steel item as well?
And aluminum.
Aluminum, rather, yes.
Aluminum, yeah.
Aluminum. Now, I just wanna make sure that we keep enough in public safety, funding for next year, that we don't overspend
Well, I
what we
think,
have this year.
I think we're gonna still be over
I
500,000.
think we'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll still be over 500,000.
And that money from Highland Commons is an annual
Right.
payment, and it gets adjusted by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So it will be at least
It can't be less than
724,000.
what you got this year,
Yep,
and it could
Yeah.
go up.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
so if we take,
but we won't get River Bridge.
Riverbridge is done.
But we also won't spend $450,000 on the renovation project.
Correct.
so let me run this by, see if I'm
Yep.
right. So we got the existing numbers for the first 4 items. Then we're putting in $450,000 for the ambulance that is coming out of ambulance receipts. And then we're putting, whatever did you say, $60,000 for the doors, is that what's the number?
It's 63. It's actually 62,787.
Okay, so
But let's round it up, 63.
63. So that 63 will go on that total with the ambulance.
Correct.
No, not with the ambulance, with
No,
the.
up
with
below
public
the
safety.
ambulance.
Yep. So then that brings you to 208, I believe, 774. I'm cheating because I have Excel.
Wait,
so
that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
For total use from,
Uh-oh.
from public safety. I'm glowing.
Let's hide in the dark, man.
Hold on.
We haven't moved.
We have an
So-
hour. The lights go off again.
That's right. If I'm adding up everything that's public safety mitigation on here that you wanna do, not counting the ambulance, I'm getting 208,774.
So that's the 101,610 for fire,
Yep.
Yeah.
plus 63,000 for the doors,
Yep.
plus 44,164 for the police.
Yep.
208,774.
Again, cheating, cause I have Excel.
I know, right?
So now I can plug that in to the mitigation spreadsheet and tell you that you would still have $470,375 to carry over. Well, it always carries over, but that's how
Yeah.
much you still have in public safety mitigation.
Yeah.
Plus
I think
whatever
it's
we get
close
next year.
enough.
Okay.
And I think long term, we're gonna end up saving money because once they place the order for most stuff, that usually I shouldn't say that because it happens to me all the time, but you try to lock in the pricing. But this day and age, nobody holds their prices very long.
I know.
Well, nobody holds the prices to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a vicious circle.
I get
It
quotes
is.
now and the quote's only good for 10 days now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Really?
crazy.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yep.
No
Tariffs, no
stability at
tariffs,
all.
tariffs, no tariffs. Nobody knows what's going on.
Anything to do with copper, brass, or metals, aluminum?
Alright.
So you're telling me I should have bought that metal roof 6 weeks ago?
I bought a brand new motor 2 weeks ago. It was $1,410. I bought the same motor 2 weeks later, and it was $1,540. Same company, same motor.
That's crazy.
And just for the record, I'm okay with the rest of the stuff from
Yep.
highway, library, and cemetery.
I'm not.
The library has removed all their requests.
Why?
I was gonna,
Included the door?
They removed all of them?
That was my understanding.
if they didn't, I was gonna suggest it.
I thought the door was still on. And
Yeah.
I would not okay a door at $21,000. I am not.
She was gonna come back
Good.
to us with
Then
more.
they can give the dimensions to you, you can track it down.
it does have to be
It-
historic.
It was,
I went to the library
Customized.
and that door is terrible. You can see right through it, through the holes.
I'm sorry, folks, 21 grand for a door.
Wait,
It's not just the wings, they'll take
Can
the
we-
whole frame out, everything.
can we pause this whole argument, because we have not actually voted on
Huh.
fire public
Oh,
safety
right.
Okay,
mitigation.
you're right.
So
right.
let's get that out of the way. So I'm going to propose a vote that we approve to fund $101,610 worth of items for fire. That is the forestry gear replacement, rescue tool replacement, the CPR assist device replacement, and more turnout gear. As well as $63,000 in the fire
Door.
public safety doors out of public safety mitigation funds. Giving us a total out of public safety mitigation funds of $208,774.
second,
Any discussion? No, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, let's argue about library.
You didn't put the ambulance in that.
Oh, should be a second line item, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I also propose that we purchase an ambulance. That fire purchases an ambulance. We budget $450,000 for said ambulance replacement, but would be extremely grateful if he manages to get it for $319,000. But that's funded out of ambulance receipts.
I second that.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect. Thank you for reminding me that I forgot the ambulance.
I think I have Victoria at the library. This is like phone a friend evening.
Right now?
If you would like to speak with her, she can clarify on the requests.
Okay, yes, if she would like to clarify, oh, I see what I got confused about, was the door and CPA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which they decided not to go with.
Because they'd have to make the building
Historic.
historic. All right, let's see. Give her a call if that's all right.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Victoria. You're live at the Capitol Committee. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. How are you all?
Good. Good. So I think the confusion was that we was going to go to CPA, the door, but it can't because the building would have to be historic, so it's back on the capital plan. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And are the other items, the asbestos study, the sidewalk parking lot repairs, and the retaining wall repairs still on there?
Yes, they are. I know there was some discussion about maybe grouping the sidewalk repairs, I believe, with the one that would be done at the municipal offices.
Hmm.
But I don't know if Fred has made progress on getting an updated quote for that, or if that would just be if one of them got, I don't know what the
No,
plan
that
is
would
for
just
that.
pay
but-
for it, doesn't matter who does it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think, does that
That clarifies it for me.
clear it up? Can you speak a little bit to why the door is so expensive, Victoria?
Man, I wish I knew. I know the frame is kind of wonky, so the whole thing needs to be redone. And I'm sorry, I don't have the documents right in front of me, but I know there was something about we can't just put like a standard door in there because it's a little bit of an unusual size, I believe.
Yeah.
So
No-
it just kind of all has to be custom.
Nothing is standard with that door.
Right. So it all has to be custom done, and I think that's what's driving up the price. I mean, it was just one contractor, and I know it took a long time to get anybody to even give a quote, so I would hope that
Are they
if it-
local?
No, they're down the Cape.
No, they were in Hudson.
The-
It was
the-
G&T
the li-
Builders in
The
Hudson.
literature that you had that night, the company making the door is at the Cape.
Oh,
There's,
yes,
there's,
yeah.
they're a specialty door and window manufacturer, and that's why they're so expensive.
Yeah, it was
G-
G&T Builders doing the work, and they're from Hudson, but then they had to,
Order
I
the door.
don't know if subcontract's the
Order
right
the
word,
door.
but.
Yeah, I think
Oh, I have it here, yep.
the door was something like 17 grand, and they wanted like 5 grand to put it in.
The
Yeah.
door is 13,800. I found it, Victoria.
Thank you.
Yeah, the door labor is $5,040,
Yeah.
and then they have to paint, and that's $960. Then there's also a cost for the permit, which is $240, and
Usually
$240
the
for
the
disposal.
town does not charge.
Hey, we don't
itself
charge,
for permits.
there's no building permit for town buildings.
That is true unless we have to pay a wiring, plumbing, or electrical or plumbing inspector, which in this case is just a building permit, so we wouldn't have to pay.
Right.
That is true.
But confirm that with
Yep.
Rick. My
We-
mental information's old.
You are correct, because upstairs, we did not pay the building permit, but I do have to pay out of the project costs for Dennis Montiero and Al Roseberry, because otherwise they don't get paid.
If I don't believe they get 100% of their fees that they bring in.
They may
Can-
not, but,
Let's not
Yeah.
keep her hanging on.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I hope if it, if we have to put it out to bid and maybe we get a lower number. There just wasn't time with how long it took to get even one quote to get a second quote
Sure.
for you guys before this.
And I apologize for putting you on the spot, Victoria, but that
That's
was
okay.
very
Happy to
helpful.
answer questions.
I think we are
All set?
pretty
Yeah.
good.
Okay, we're good. Thank you
Great,
so
thank you.
much.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. I feel like we're on, remember the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? When they,
Oh, and you could phone a
you
friend.
could phone a friend. That's what I feel like I'm doing this evening. So you could most likely take $240 off that at least.
240 isn't gonna, is,
I
Something, yeah.
I guess I have to, my two questions is, I mean, we've had the retaining wall, that's been like that for years. Is that critical, it has to be done? I mean, is it a safety issue?
It was recommended as part of that facilities study that we did. I
Okay,
can
what
give you-
about the
along
asbestos?
the edge, by the sidewalk, underneath the ground, there's water pipes.
We're talking about, this retaining wall is to the left of the building.
I believe there's a
There's no
problem.
sidewalk there.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was a selectman, this came up, and I was given a course in hydraulics that
I
I
know,
did not
I'm-
understand.
I know about hydraulics, but I just,
And once again,
we gotta,
that would be something Freddie can do as time allows.
Freddie said no, that was gonna go out to bid. Cause he gave a name of somebody that does that work, the same guy that's gonna do the
LeVay.
walks. Yeah,
LeVay lives at the end of Lancaster Road.
yeah, so it's like, oh, that's,
Bob LeVay.
yeah, LeVay, yeah.
He used to do
Yep, we've got
Little
an
League with
estimate
my
there.
husband.
Levay Construction, retaining wall for the library plus labor, $10,504.
So this library items still stayed, we did not remove them, right?
No,
I would rather vote the money, and then if you decide later on that, we can do it a different way.
that'll never happen. Once it's okayed here, it'll never happen. That's just like, I know it's gotta go out to bids. This thing's been going on for this door for 4 months, 5 months.
At least, yeah.
Somebody's not stepping up to the plate. We're here to do the best for the town. That's not doing the best for the town.
What would you propose?
I would have liked to seen 3 quotes here. If I had a quote come in for 21 grand with $5,000 in labor, I've been on that phone real fast making some more phone calls. I mean, I do that for a living. If I ever walked in with a quote like that and my boss would say, "Where's the other ones? Shop it out." It's the way it is.
Well, I can
That's not gonna
appreciate-
happen. It's not, once we approve that,
What happens once it gets approved?
That is over $10,000, so we have to get 3 quotes
Right.
by law. So I would actually oversee that as the chief procurement officer. We'd have to put it out, and I would have to sign off on the invoice before June would pay it.
So the price can go down, but what you're saying is it can't go up.
Well, they'd have to come back to us.
They would have to come
but
back.
it could go up. When this came out, that's probably already gone up 10%.
But our other option is to not replace the door.
My option is, well,
Go ahead.
my option is I wouldn't approve it, but that's me.
But then what? Then she comes back with 3 quotes? Or what?
I'm just-
I don't know.
I don't know what you would do, but I'm just saying that's not fiscal responsible.
We don't usually require, when they're submitting the capital plan, to get 3. They have to have 1. I understand your point that that's a high cost, so I get it. The good news with that is that the potential is there for it to be lower with getting the other 2 quotes, but at least you have 1 price at a minimum.
John, I need to hear from you. You're the swing vote here.
I went to the library and borrowed a book, and I checked the door. It is terrible. It has to be replaced.
Not arguing that.
No argument there. Is it $21,000? I don't know.
Right.
You know, nothing is standard. You can't just go and buy a standard door, because that one is not standard. So it has to be specially made. So I would put some money in there and then get the quotes, get it down, if we can.
And if the quotes come in higher, then you wait till next year.
Okay.
And looking at all the other budgets, $29,000 is really not that much for the whole thing.
Well, I'm not agreeing to the other ones either, but that's,
Well, they're coming up next.
you know.
And you can always vote no, too.
Huh?
You can always vote no, too.
I have no problem voting no.
Exactly, there you go.
You don't, do you? I don't either.
No, but I've been in this business long enough to know that the quotes are 18 to 20 months ahead of time. And at the very last minute, you still have to go out to bid.
That is true.
That's why when Eric Schottner comes in and says, well, this part is $2.02, and you know, it's gonna change.
You say you better give them $2.50.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, I don't mind that. I just have a serious problem with 21 grand for a door. I
Okay.
could do every window and door in my house for $21,000.
Not through Anderson.
Newpro.
But
No, I'm
I mean,
only kidding, but I mean,
I totally agree with you, and I think it's dumb what I'm about to say. Not dumb, but the fact that people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace the windows in their home make a $20,000 door
I know, but
not unreasonable.
there's a difference. Most of those people probably have the money to spend. We're trying to save money for the town.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the library as written. And you go vote no, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But nobody seconded
I
it.
second that.
We have to have discussion. Any discussion?
I think
Any
we just
more
did.
We
discussion?
did.
I know, we've had lots of discussion. I'm gonna vote aye.
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 Nay.
Good.
Nay.
Yeah.
All right.
I am totally agree that $21,000 is ridiculous for a door. But I have hope and faith in Kristen.
Well,
that-
I'm not favor of the asbestos study either. And I realize that was on the building thing too, but to me, that's not a priority. It's up in the ceiling,
As long as it's not,
as long as it's not disturbed,
as long as that's called encapsulated.
right,
It can stay there.
forever and a day.
But if
And-
they have to
but
start
that's-
messing with
Doing
the
any
roof
interior-
or
But-
putting the insulation in,
I can understand the sidewalk and parking lot and all that stuff, because that's safety. I understand if somebody falls, twists their legs, that's fine. But like I said, well, we're already voted it, but the asbestos to me, if it's sitting up there, it's not a priority, but for $4,000, I'm not gonna argue that one.
Yeah.
I
pretty
know
no, I'd
they-
like to get out of here before 9.
That ain't gonna happen. Me too, but that ain't gonna happen. All right, so we're done that, so what's the next one? Highway?
Nope, let's skip that for the moment. Let's do, cemetery mower. Let's hit the small, less
Oh,
argued
yes,
items.
yes. Is that the new one? That's the new one, right there. They were in here for last?
Yep,
Yeah, we
Okay.
talked about that one.
Yeah,
We
that
did.
was,
Yeah.
that was their quote coming in.
Oh, okay.
I vote that we move to allow cemetery to buy a new mower
I
and let
second it.
highway drive it around.
I second it.
Okay.
Discussion? Nope, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Especially that one's costing us a lot of money.
Okay. Is there anything else small that we're missing, or is that everybody? Oh, school.
No, we didn't do the highway.
Yeah, no, I know we didn't do highway. I was like, we're doing well.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, school. Okay. So highway is currently a total of 224,000
24.
because we took out the overhead door replacement
Oh, okay.
for $20,002. So municipal building sidewalk repairs, that's not this building, is it?
It is.
It is.
It's where the sidewalk and the curb are like this.
Right.
That was the number one most identified safety issue for trip hazard
Yeah.
on the study for this building.
Where is that?
Right
Right out
front.
by the postage thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Can that be included in that grant that we got for the downtown area?
No, that grant only covers, Woodward, Carter, and Central. And we have to stay within that boundary. But
Okay.
future, potentially, but it's a ways down the road because we have to do this project before we can get more money.
No, that's, I didn't
And
think
it's
so.
a
Good
safety
question,
hazard.
though. I mean,
Yeah.
So they're gonna take the whole curves out, curb, or just?
I don't know, I was looking on Google and it showed a way that you open it up, raise it with a crowbar and a
Yeah.
thing and.
They do is they jackhammer it along the side, raise it all up or whatever the height they need to be, and then they tamp it in and they pour concrete about this wide along the pavement and the
and that costs
granite.
$77,000?
it actually goes all the way down too. If you look outside when you walk out, if you walk out the front doors and go to the left towards public safety, it's there too.
It's,
And we didn't fix that when we fixed everything else in
they
the
were
parking
supposed to,
lot?
for some reason it didn't happen right.
Oh.
That's what Freddie said.
I was
That
gonna
was,
say,
that
'cause
was
we
a,
paid for
that was a
it.
screw up on the contractor.
And we,
I wasn't here. Do
No.
I get to claim the
That's-
fifth when I
that's
wasn't
what-
here?
That's what happened.
That's what I heard. No,
Yeah.
in all honesty, that's what I heard. That
But
there
that's-
was something with the parking lot when it was paved.
Yeah.
That something
Yeah.
happened, and I don't know if
They
there
just,
wasn't.
if they put in the wording just paving, then that's
Right.
all they'll do.
no, because it was the funding we approved, I remember Eloise talking about tripping on the walkways.
Yeah.
And so
But-
that funding was to repair the walkways.
Yep.
They,
A lot
they
of this-
never use, they always use the word clumsy when they're talking about
The
Eloise.
thing with,
No, I remember Eloise talking
I-
about how dangerous it was
I
for
didn't see the-
Eloise to come to
I didn't
work.
see the quote But I will say that that's probably one of the most labor-intense jobs
It's,
out
Yeah.
there. It's basically a lot of back-breaking work.
Yeah.
You know. But, you know, and I think we include that, no, that's gonna be included. I think we talked to Freddie about including the sidewalk and doing that all at one shot.
With the library?
Yeah, when he does it, go out for doing the whole thing when you do the quote.
Economies of scale, put them both
Yeah,
together.
put 'em both
well,
together.
if you have to get specialized equipment and
Yeah.
it's easier to get them for one larger job than two small jobs.
Speaking of combining, not to get off subject, because it just dawned on me, you're talking about Freddie, the 1870 paving and drainage.
Mhm.
Has that been, I know Freddie's gonna try to get, when they do Crosby this year, he's gonna try to get them to incorporate the driveway by the 1870.
Won't be ready in time.
No?
No, they can't pave it till they fix the drainage.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, so nothing's happened with that?
No, so they're designing it right now. The whole thing has to be redone to meet stormwater regulations.
Yeah, I know it.
And the whole site is very small. It's a small site and it has a lot of impervious surface on it, which is creating a ton of problems to meet stormwater.
Yep.
But the thing is, if you don't fix it, you're gonna keep flooding the basement of the Bullard house, which doesn't make,
Maybe we could
sense.
wash that away,
well.
or divert it to wash the bullet house down the road.
I'll leave that one for further.
But
debate.
anyways, okay, you answered
But,
the question.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
and what's gonna probably happen is because, they're gonna have to build some type of structure to deal with the stormwater. They're gonna be coming back to capital for money to do the
Yeah,
drainage.
that's-
Before we can do the drive.
I didn't know where that was going, but that's fine. I don't
Yeah.
wanna tie that up. I was just a quick question. So going back to, we'll get back on the station here. What are we doing now for the highway?
So for highway, they have 4 things, 2 super expensive. Municipal building sidewalk repairs at 77,000. F-450 replacement with plow at 95,000.
Didn't Freddie send you a message about that? You were telling me that, right?
Yeah, so he was asking, if he should repair the current truck, and I just said, even if capital recommends the new one, town meeting might not, and by the time you get it in, so I just said to him, if you need that truck, get it repaired.
That's
Yeah.
exactly the way I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cause he's gonna be without it for like 4 months.
exactly, unless he
And-
has something else he can use in
Yeah.
the interim, he needs to get it repaired, that's
Yeah.
what I told him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and even if we ordered it today, it's gonna take a long time
Yeah.
to show up.
Correct, so there's a lot of ifs
Yep.
in
Yeah.
that whole process there.
Okay.
Then a mower vac system replacement, and then the seal coating the highway garage.
That's a smart thing to do, to preserve. I mean, we talk about how we don't do preventative maintenance and preserve what we have. I mean, that's something you really need to stay on
And-
top of.
That's not a bad price, only because I just had mine hole done with striping, and that was 11.5. So.
That's a
that-
big lot up there too.
Yeah. So that's not a bad price. Gotta remember, they spray it now, so it doesn't take long.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But anyways, they're gonna fix cracks and all that stuff, but that is not all that bad of a price from past experiences. Moavac, I mean, what are you gonna do?
So highway, he. He prioritized his things as the sidewalk repairs were the most important.
Mm-hmm.
The the overhead fire doors,
Well, that we already took care of.
right, those were his second most important. The F-450 replacement was his third priority. He said the current truck is a 2012, I assume,
Mm-hmm.
that is in my notes. And would trade 2 trucks in on that F-450, so we'd lose 2 and gain 1. Then the mower vac system replacement, then the seal coat. The seal coat, he said, could be pushed off a year.
But we gained 20 grand so we can do the seal coat. Cause we took 20 grand and put the overhead door up above, so that leaves the 20 grand available. We could do the seal coat with that 20 grand, so that's not gonna,
Or we could save 20 grand, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe lose it next year because we have a big crack in
But the thing of it is, and I agree with Kristen, is that once that driveway starts cracking, then it's gonna cost us more money.
How old is the driveway? Does anybody remember when they built that building?
17, is that right?
Yeah, it's
18?
about right. 2017, the highway garage?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So, yeah, so you're
7
talking, 7 years, yeah.
I'll tell you,
Ours is
Saturday, I'm having my rabies clinic
Oh.
up there.
Yeah,
How
but no,
often
it's,
are you
it's,
supposed to
it's
seal
about
coat?
right.
How often are you supposed to seal coat?
There's really no set, it's basically on usage.
Okay.
And
And
wear
what
a
it looks
chair,
like.
3 to 5,
Yeah,
7
you know,
years.
it's, you know, your driveway you do every 5 years, you know, and everything depends on usage. You know, when they're plowing, you scrape it up, your traffic.
My neighbors who use my driveway all the time turn around.
What?
I'm gonna charge them next time I need to pay.
But that's, basically, it's hard to say. We did ours, that was only that building's 20 years, that was only the third time in 20 years, so.
Well, that would be about a 7-year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly.
Window? Yeah.
Yep. We had to,
I never do it, so that's different.
I don't
Yeah,
own
but
a
it's
paved
just you and
driveway.
your wife.
Yeah.
It's just you and your wife.
You don't really have to
Right,
worry
yeah.
about it until it starts
I know.
cracking. Once you start
And
cracking,
the
that's when you
dog.
gotta really take
Oh.
care of it. So,
Oof. It's just a lot of money. So I think the sidewalk repairs.
definitely,
like, can we not sue the contractor that messed it up?
do what?
Sue the contractor.
Yeah, you're now talking, how long ago was that repaired? It was before me, so
3
that's
or
at
4 years?
least 2.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not long ago.
The Moavac? Is that what
No,
you're talking
the-
about?
Nope, the sidewalk repairs.
Go back and read the contract and see.
I know we talked about that and there was a reason that we couldn't,
Maybe we signed off on it and said it was okay and we can't go
typically,
back.
once you do a final payment, it's
Yeah.
a,
Done deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those have to be done.
That's a safety issue.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
safety issue,
is.
and it's an
Yeah.
acknowledged safety issue at this moment in time.
You know, I think the way I feel is, this is my input. I like the sidewalk repair, the F-450, and the seal coat. And I say we skip the Moavac for 40 grand.
Yeah, but he does the school fields.
Contract them out.
oh, that's very expensive. We did that before in my previous town. It's
Really?
costly. Well, cause he can hire summer help, like he does the seasonal helpers, like the
Is
kids
it gonna
that
cost
they're
us more than
back from college.
$40,000?
Wow. For all the fields, cause that's South Commons too, and the school fields.
In the field right out here.
Yeah,
Does anybody, oh, wait,
yeah,
I
And I
don't
have
wanna
it.
go
That might
into
cost you
tick
more.
farming.
because you do it a few times a year, not just once.
But, you know, you get the guys with those gang mowers, it doesn't take long.
I had to mow South Common ones with a home.
Well, the gang mowers are like 16 feet wide. I
I've
mean,
seen them, but we
Yeah.
didn't have the money and the
And that
kids
mo-
needed
and
to
that
play.
Moavac
Did you cut
isn't
it?
that big of a unit.
Oh my God.
One thing I know with, not farming out, that's not the right word, contracting out, is they cannot use our machinery.
Right.
Insurance will not cover it.
But this Moavac is only like 54 inches wide.
What are you gonna do with the rest of the
Yeah.
equipment then? It's just gonna sit there.
Is a
And he
special
does
tractor
up
or the
at,
same as
South
It's
Cemetery.
just a,
Yep.
Some
all
of
it
it,
is
I mean,
is a,
that's the back.
There's a lot of places
Sit
to
on.
mow.
sit on like this, 54 inches wide, with a vacuum on the back.
But that's not 50, oh, how much money is it?
That's because the brand of it, it's a
40.
right
Did he
mower.
give us, cause I can't find it in my paperwork,
It's a right mower.
quote and a,
And
I'm
it
gonna
is the
call it a
best
defense
for what
of,
they're doing.
capital project request form as to
And
why
once
it
again-
needs to
6,000 for
be.
his.
That
I know
still
he
has
came
to
and
go
talked
out
to
for
us, but I was
bid.
not sure.
Huh?
That still has to go out for bid.
Oh, I know, but what you're saying is, I mean, saying it's the top of the line mower, which I don't have a problem with. Anytime you do commercial, industrial stuff like what we do, you don't wanna buy a Cub Cadet or a John Deere, you want,
An industrial
Yep.
or a commercial.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, I'm just looking at the amount of money we're looking to spend
How
here.
old is the one it's replacing?
That's,
Well,
She's
I
pulling
can
it up.
only look at one thing at a time, but I'll tell you, he's got two quotes. One is for $38,286 for a Kubota,
Okay,
and then the second quote is for a John Deere for $38,110.
so it's basically the same money.
And the justification is,
Oh, I'm sorry, the right is the one that, cemetery wants, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that one was 16,000.
he's looking to replace the current 2009 John Deere 1445 series mower and collection system, which has 2,324 hours on it. He says the hydrostatic drive system has failed.
2 or 3 times.
Is that traditionally their weakness?
No, it's just the age.
2009, 16 years.
No, I mean, we should get, we should get 7 to 8 years before we do any serious maintenance on them, at least. After that, then you're becoming like a car.
I propose we think about getting the mower back and not getting the F-450, going one more year with the 2 trucks that we have,
That goes well.
and getting
Yeah.
the 450 next year.
Yep,
Okay,
I agree with that.
that's good thinking, yeah.
What are we spending in repairs for the 450?
Well, we're spending, right
21.
now, $2,000,
Two
but
grand.
we're spending
This
that
time.
whether or not we're buying
Yeah.
Right.
this car. Cause it just broke.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
must have been up by my neck of the woods. My cars have been breaking down like,
Oh, my car's totally not running. It's dead in my driveway.
So,
Left me on the side of the highway.
you know, yeah, we might have to put, $6,000-8,000 into it for it to, keep maintaining it, but at this time, I think you're right, we just can't justify it.
I think it's a reasonable request,
Oh, I'm not arguing that.
but we
Monetary
have,
wise,
we have a small budget and we have a school budget.
Yep.
And our other departments have been, he's getting a lot.
Yep.
Comparatively.
can we make a motion on that?
You can do whatever you want.
I'd like to make a motion on the highway that we do $77,000 for the municipal building sidewalk repairs, the $39,500 for the Mowac replacement, and the $12,500 for the garage seal coat.
For a total of, let me see.
100, hold on.
If you did go with the replacement with the
129.
plow, what kind of timeline are you waiting for?
30 to 60 days probably.
Would you like me to phone a friend again?
It's that fast, as opposed to, the
Yeah, because
police?
there's nothing special order for that. That's just a small dump truck and you put a plow on it.
Okay, will the current national situation impact this?
Probably.
2-hour negative?
Yes.
I
Yes.
understand
Yeah.
we're tight.
But I think by the
I
time we
don't
do,
argue with you.
I think by the time this is voted on at town meeting, it's gonna be too late anyways. I think,
also think that's correct.
In
Yeah.
that case,
It's
you
not for
pass
the
over
ambulance,
it.
though,
Huh?
Chief was saying.
What's
So,
that?
it's not for the ambulance, though, Chief was saying, so.
no, because they're using PVC and some other stuff.
Well, he thought that would be impacted by the
Aluminum.
tariffs as well.
A lot of our,
The truck's not aluminum.
the truck is steel, but a lot of that steel comes out of Canada.
Yeah. I mean, it's already $95,000.
Yeah.
So if it goes to 100,
But within a year, things will change. These tariffs will not hold.
You don't think they're gonna stay?
No.
You think
You
it's
can't,
just a
we
negotiating?
cannot run business like that. I mean, Trump is just forcing somebody to.
Whether we should or
Oh.
shouldn't, can or can't is a different story.
Yeah, I know.
He's basically making everybody go in a
Man.
whirlwind, but anyways, I mean, I don't have a problem with your suggestion or,
Yeah, let's go with your suggestion. Move the truck by a year.
yeah.
Oh, Kristen has a thought.
Well, it was a half thought, and then it went away.
Well, let's hear the half that stayed.
It may not make sense. I'm thinking about cost. I'm also thinking about the fact that I know how frugal Fred is and that
I
he
know, I
never
know.
asks for anything unless he really needs it. And I'm thinking about cost escalation, which of course none of us know because none of us have a crystal ball, which I totally get. Would you consider maybe putting that one aside, looking at the school and seeing where you're at and coming back and looking at that one?
For
Okay.
reconsideration, sure.
Is that a reasonable?
It's reasonable. Are we allowed to do that with a motion on the floor to vote
Yeah.
on it?
You can just table it.
Okay. Does that work?
Eloise knows.
Okay, I believe Eloise. I don't know any of these
She's
rules.
right.
Please table it. Okay.
That means you brought it up, you talked about it, but then you left it on the table because you weren't prepared to take a motion.
I am not
Because I had half a
prepared.
brain thought that came out and then, yeah, messed you up.
Yeah,
So
and
now what do
it's a good
where do
thought.
we stand with the school?
So, the discussion, as I mentioned last night, centered around taking extra free cash for capital, given an understanding of the needs.
can I pause? So at the moment,
We have to
had
finish
this number. At the moment, we have approximately $320,000
tabled that one.
remaining in our
The whole
budgeted
thing?
No,
360.
We tabled the highway.
If we spend
So we're gonna
244
wait.
on highway,
Coming back to it.
that gives us what, 60
I
grand
thought
for
it was
schools?
just a truck. Okay.
We're gonna come back on that.
Which I think FinCom and the select board understood was not reasonable, so they're okay with you recommending using, they've basically freed it up for you by not putting money into general stabilization.
Yeah.
So how much do they want us to spend?
Well, that is a good question. Let me tell you what the school wants, and then I'll give you the feedback that I heard from the FinCom and the select board. So the school, these are all needs. They just don't have to happen all this year. The ones that the school is saying really have to happen this year are the elevator controls. We'll start with BMS. Elevator controls, that's $192,000. Cameras, they don't have exterior cameras in certain places, and that's a safety issue. And those staff device replacements, everything's on the Chromebooks and the devices now. They don't buy books anymore. It's all on the devices that have to be replaced every 3 years.
So bad for your brain.
Yes. So that totals $298,400 if you look at their this year really need to have items.
Can you say
How
that
much
again?
do we have that we could dedicate just to the school?
Well, if you look at the free cash plan that I gave you, flip that one over. Nope,
See,
it's the one facing me.
I would say, this is the amount of money you've got. Where do you wanna allocate it?
And I think you could, and I will tell
No,
you.
I wouldn't. I would bounce that back to the school.
Well, we did have one board member, he said, as one person on one board, it was Scott Hawkins, give an opinion that he would like to see the school capital request closer to like 350. That was one
For both
number.
schools?
Yes, that was one number that was thrown out, but that was not a motion, and that was not
A statement.
it was a statement. Nobody else really wanted to give a specific number. There was more of a discussion about the need and why and what were needed.
Can I have you circle back to the BMS? That total number was 298,000.
298,400.
And I will raise a question yet again that I'm not raising to be obnoxious, except that the device replacements are things that occur every year.
Yep.
Um,
That's gonna be an every year thing, yeah.
so,
Oh, you're talking about whether it meets the capital
Mm,
definition.
yeah.
We
Because the
discussed that- we
individual
discussed that before.
devices, yes, and I asked this
It's
when
like
school
cruiser
was here.
replacement.
And when school was here, I said, well, it's like cruiser replacements, but a cruiser is $70,000 versus a device is $1,000. So that means the device versus all the devices
Mhm.
is less than a capital item.
Right.
And school, when I brought that up, they went, oh, maybe we should talk about whether that is part of our operating budget.
So that's one that I've seen funded both ways, either as part of a capital plan or as part of an operating budget.
Yeah, but you gotta be consistent.
If you put it into an operating budget, that's a permanent increase.
If you put it in capital, you can turn it down.
Correct.
Okay, I'll stop arguing.
So just putting that out there. And I'm not saying a permanent increase is necessarily the wrong way to go, because if they need that money every year, does it maybe not make sense at some point to look at adding that to the operating budget every year? But at this point, we are asking them to lower the operating budget because we have a deficit.
So they're shifting it into capital.
Well, I wouldn't recommend shifting it into operating, I guess, or putting it back into operating at this time. And I do think when you look at it collectively, it is very similar to cruiser replacement, which I will tell you, some towns have taken that out of capital and made special articles because those go 3 years, 100,000 miles. Yes, they're over 10,000, but generally you're replacing cruisers every 3 years. Because once they hit that 100,000, they're all repairs and issues.
Is Boylston prepared to pay their part of the capital?
What did they say about Boylston? We did not get a specific answer. The answer we got was no, not all of it. If I'm remembering correctly. Sorry, the meeting went until 11 last night, so I'm trying to, the brain gets a little foggy. They did not give a specific number. I know they were working with Boylston too. They did say, and I think I have it in my notes from last night. They talked about, they actually did a little discussion about which ones within these were a little bit more higher priority. I know if we jump to Tohoto for a minute, I know the furniture had a lot of discussion about it, because it is a very high price. The issue is that apparently at the middle school, it is elementary school sized furniture, and there are very tall
Yes.
students that are quite uncomfortable in the desks. But the discussion that was had was, well, could you buy some desks for students that are taller, or could you phase it in over a few years?
Or buy
They-
secondhand?
They feel that that is the biggest issue they want to address right now.
Yeah, that's what they said when they were here.
Yeah.
We talked about that, about the size of the kids that are in there now. And I can understand
We're
that.
feeding them too much.
That's it, we need to starve them more.
No more Miracle Grow in their milk.
Down with school lunches.
Um,
Oh, man.
Let me see.
They'll still be tall, but they're skinny.
I
So
know I
what's-
took notes on something.
So are
That
we
is
working
true.
on Tohoto now or BMS?
Well, I kind of finished BMS and I was just about to go into Tohoto because they had 4 items on Tohoto.
Yeah, but aren't we gonna do the
Priority.
voting on BMS first?
Or just
It's
school.
one total
How
number.
often do they deal with the elevator controls?
Those are old.
Yeah, when they came, you weren't here, when they came and spoke, I think I have a quote for it.
Yeah, the problem,
I'm
the
gonna-
problem
It's very
is,
bad while you're pulling that up,
Okay.
'cause I
the
took
problem
some notes.
is the controls that were put in originally, they are no longer made and they're no longer being serviced because the company no longer exists.
Yeah, it was, they were pretty
adamant about that one.
adamant. And it made sense from
Yes.
from a safety standpoint.
Yep.
I have 18 seen pictures.
I mean, if you
Furniture.
look at a lot of these make sense. And I'd love to say, yeah, go ahead and do it, but they're just not there. The money's not there.
So it's modernizing the elevator, installing a new power unit, solid state controller. Hoist
How many
and-
elevators do we have? 2, 3?
How
What's it
many
just-
quotes did they
That's
get?
says
that's
one.
just one down there.
Just
But it's the
one
controller
quote.
to,
Just
controls
one?
the floors and,
And it's not up to code, the current elevator.
yeah, those are inspected every year too.
And Steve liked the elevator people.
Who's that?
United Elevator.
Yeah,
You
I
gave
told them
yours
to go
the
to
other one.
Worcester Elevator.
They'll still have to send it out to bid.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
But I told them to go to them guys. I know for a fact that they're,
I had extras of these, so.
Oh, cool.
This is the budget as it was voted on. I had some leftover copies from last night, so I thought you might
Thank
like
you.
them.
Thank you.
Yep, if you turn to page. I'm glad I grabbed those extra ones. I knew they would come in handy. It's in here somewhere. 18. That has BMS in it. The ones in gray are the ones they said are not as urgent or could wait a year, which is why.
that's what they said last year.
13?
18.
8.
Last year, they wanted the mini splits. Oh, gung ho, $400,000. We need to put the mini splits in.
Well, those did not make the top of the list for this year. And remember, you have a new administration.
They were much more organized.
I thought their I mean, even if you look at this, it's a very well-done presentation. I'm just trying to see.
It's still unaffordable, but it's very well done.
Fair. Okay, so here's what they said. Thank goodness I took notes. Okay, so let's go back to BMS for a minute. So number one is the elevator. They really have to do that. On the camera system, they said they brought that number down to the bare minimum. They might be able to make do without the cameras this year, but definitely not next year. This is the $45,000 for those external cameras. And then, no, I'm sorry, the cameras, okay, let's try this again. Elevator they need, cameras they need, devices they might be able to make do this year, but not next year. I can't read my own notes, I apologize. So 1 and 2 were the ones with the asterisks.
That makes me feel better.
yeah, but the 3 come up to
It's just gonna come next year.
298,400 if I add correct.
You
Yeah,
are
you had
correct.
correct.
But don't forget, you're gonna see that 61.4 next year, and
Yeah,
they're
but
gonna
maybe
tell you
next
it
year-
But you're
has
gonna
to be
see-
funded.
But we're gonna see it next year anyway,
Okay.
Yeah.
because it's like a
And
cruiser.
Ron,
It's like a
Well,
it's a
gonna come
revolving
up every
item.
year. Yeah, it is a revolving argument.
Maybe we can be a little bit better off next year.
We wouldn't have elevators that needed to be replaced next year.
That's right.
Right, but then don't forget, there's all those other items on this list that are
Yeah.
grayed out. Roof is gonna go next year, I know, and
Yes, did
So-
anybody apply for that grant that I forwarded?
I didn't get a chance to ask. Sorry, it was a little chaotic last night. Let me make a note to follow up with them.
Right, because they got the grant for the roof,
They did.
and so I don't see why we can't expect them to do the same
I
for
mean,
us.
they, on the thing, it said if you need roof or like mini splits, and I said, it looks like
Here we go. Here's
Yep.
how you're
this
choosing
would
to
take
fund it.
care of ours.
I will ask them that question. Sorry, Eloise, I meant to, and like I said, it was a little crazy.
But between the 298,400 for Berlin and the 137,622 for Tohoto, do we have the money to take care of just those things?
Well, let me speak to Tohoto for 1 minute, because they also had preferences within their preferences. Furniture, they said, is absolutely their number one. The auditorium projector is absolutely needed this year at number 2. Again, with the devices, they said they may be able to delay a year, but then they will need them next year.
I personally would love to delay all devices,
Okay.
BMS and Tohoto.
I agree with that.
Fund the other things.
So let's see what that would do for your math here. So that would bring BMS down to 237,000. And that would bring Tohoto to $86,002.
Oh, one of Fred's 002s.
So the total there then would be $323,002.
Do we have enough money to do that? Or how much would we
We
still
do.
have to make? So why don't we suggest that?
Thought you said we have like 353,000, is that what
So-
you said?
360 is the recommended,
Yeah,
but now there was 120 not going into stabilization. And another 120 not going into capital stabilization that you could possibly consider using as well, so that's another 240.
I like the idea of putting those other ones off for a year, the devices.
So if we did that, then that would change to 323,002, I said. 323,002.
That 360 number,
Mm.
is that if this was a regular year and we said we're funding capital stabilization 10%,
Mhm.
is that 360 number, we spend all that and then we fund, is the stabilization fund on top of the
Yes.
360, the 30%? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, the way I do it is you take the 25% off the top, so you keep the 300, and then you also can do the 30, you do the 30%, which is a guideline. That's not a requirement.
Right.
You can use more than that, and the select board and the FinCom have indicated willingness this year, given the nature of the requests. And I'm not saying you have to fund them all, I'm just saying there is potentially some wiggle room in there beyond the normal 360,000. Now, I have one other option I'm gonna throw in the mix, because Eloise has been asking about this, and she
Is a newbie.
is correct. What? No, she's correct.
That's
Just-
what makes her annoying. She's so often correct.
She is. If you have, if you'd like to know, in your capital stabilization, you have $528,153.52. And that doesn't include some interest that has to be transferred over for FY24, so there'll be a few more bucks in there, but basically you have 528,000 in capital stabilization. If you wanted to use that, it does require a 2/3 vote of town meeting, so just keep that in mind.
That won't be a problem.
no,
All
I'm
we
just
have to do is
putting it
tell
out
the
there.
parents, come save your children. I would be willing to dip into it like 100,000, but I have no desire to rape and pillage the town.
So if we just didn't fund capital stabilization this year, it
There's
would
your
give us that
100,000.
100,000. We wouldn't have to go into,
Okay.
we just don't fund it.
So let me play with this then. So what would that look like if you take the 120,000 you would have put into capital stabilization and you put it into capital? That would give you 480,000.
Did we ever get a new growth figure for this year?
200,000.
Thank you.
You got it. It's low. We don't have much going on.
So that would give us, if we had the whatever number, I don't remember what you just said that I started with.
480.
480. If we started with the 480 and we took out the library, the cemetery, that 323,000 we were just talking about the school, that leaves us 111,000 to fund highway. Right? That's our last department we have not talked about.
We're going back, you lost me. So why are we going back? Why aren't we still on the school?
We're still on the school.
We're trying to compare them.
You're backing out the numbers.
We're backing out the numbers.
okay.
So we have, if we don't fund capital stabilization this year, we have $480,000 to spend this year. We've already voted to fund the library and the cemetery. If we fund the school, as we just discussed, with no devices, that leaves us a total of $111,209 to fund highway.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? That would be the last of our money if we spent it all on highway.
Well, let me throw in another wrench just to make this even more fun for
Thanks.
you. You're so welcome. I know you appreciate me. If you take the 120 we were going to put in general stabilization,
Right.
that they're not going to put in, that would give you 600,000.
And that would fund everybody.
Just about.
Just about. But
not the devices and not fully the truck.
and is that what leaves us with a balance of $37,000 in capital, in free cash?
No.
This thing?
No. So don't forget, so if you did, all right, hold on. It's getting late, I gotta check my math here. So if you did, let me just for demonstration, let me just put back in the truck. And that brings you to 291,083 for the town. Okay? If you funded all of that highway
All of
and
that,
the
yeah.
truck. 291,083. Yep. And then the BBRSD with the elevator, the cameras, the furniture, and the projector controller is 323,002. Okay? So what does that come to? $614,085. You're pretty darn.
We've been here another hour.
We have. You're pretty darn close to that $600,000 number, and what that leaves you with is $170,915 plus the $300,000 to roll over to the following fiscal year. So you would roll over $470,000 plus whatever you get from FY 25 closeout.
Right. I know I asked you this at the beginning of the meeting, and now I've completely forgotten. What do we normally roll over?
It's not, it's hard to say. We've been using more capital. So, we always roll over 25%.
Yeah.
25%, yeah. I can't tell you how much we normally get in capital every year because it varies, but we always want to roll over 25%, which in this case is $300,000.
Do we
So this would
usually
allow
spend
us-
all our free cash?
No. So this would allow you to roll over $470,000. So you would still not be spending all of the free cash.
It's so much money.
So, can we go back and vote on something now?
I'm just giving you options, and I'm sorry if I'm making it more confusing. I apologize.
What you should have done is come out and said, this is the best you can have, and then work from there.
Well, I tried to do that when I was recommending ranking what you guys thought were the most important, but that.
So what's this come down to now? Are we going with the elevator cameras for BMS? And then the furniture and auditorium projectors for Tahanto?
If you go with those four, that's $323,002.
and then we could do all of highways, what you're saying.
You could, but you're gonna spend then, 614,000 in free cash.
And you say we can't do that?
We can.
You can, your target is 360, but
You said we can do that stabilized.
you got the 240 that the board said, let's not put in stabilization with the understanding that there were so many capital requests this year.
Well, the problem is if we don't do it this year, we're still gonna have to do it next year.
That's the thing.
So if
Might
we
as well.
don't do the $95,000 truck this year, which, I don't wanna do, but looking at what you're saying is, that next year, that could cost us $115,000.
I know, that's the gamble, right?
Yep. I always look at the worst picture when it comes to buying stuff.
That's how you should.
No.
Well,
I like that plan, actually. I don't like to spend money, but
What
I
if-
just, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, what if we, did for highway just the sidewalk repairs and the truck? And put off the seal coating, which could probably last another year.
Oh, yeah.
It's only 12 grand. And the mower vac replacement, which also could be,
Think
last another
I hate
year.
to say this, but they keep spending a lot of money repairing that mower vac.
I was gonna say,
Time-
the seal
time
coating year,
and
I would
money.
say you could push off. The mower makes me a little nervous
Yeah.
because they use it so much.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with the seal coat, but I understand Freddie was talking about it. Sometimes, if you repair that for next year, you could be a third of the cost of that new mower.
right.
Because those hydraulics are not that cheap.
All right, well,
I look at it, I remember Freddie coming to my house for weed blows.
Yeah.
He's always been a sturdy kid.
Yep.
And he's always had to be frugal.
So so if we do away with the seal coat, we're it's still, we're down well below that 600 down.
I'm laughing because you're at $601,585 if you take the seal coating off.
What if we got rid of the asbestos study of the library?
It's a possibility.
That one I could vote for.
Yeah.
We postponed that a year.
Okay.
Yeah, because that, like I said, like you said, it's
If
encapsulated.
it's encapsulated. I should find out what I'm talking about before we vote.
No, but
Is it encapsulated?
well,
It's in the ceiling.
it's in the ceiling.
Just don't
It's in
stick
the
your head
So
in the
the
ceiling.
only way that wouldn't be is if somebody had to go into the ceiling. And
Like you were expanding or renovating
yeah,
or
or,
something.
something
Or
like that.
roofing.
That would be the only time you.
Yeah, but then if you're expanding or renovating, you know it's there and you know you have
Yeah.
to deal with it.
Right, and that would be incorporated into whatever the project
Right,
is that
correct.
you're. So,
And this is only a study. This isn't even removing it.
That's,
Right.
so that brings you to $597,405.
I'm inclined to vote everything for highway
Me too.
and take the 4,000 off the for the
Well,
you still,
asbestos.
you still
that
want to do the
number-
highway seal coat too?
I'll leave that to you.
We can't
Yeah.
afford it.
I would leave that one off. I wouldn't mind doing that wait for a year.
I think in looking at how this matches up, you've got the 360, right?
Yep.
Then you've got 240 that's not going into stabilization. That gives you 600,000. That's a justifiable amount, right? Like, we know how we got there.
Yep.
30% of capital plus the money not going into stabilization.
Right.
If you do it without the asbestos study and without the seal coat, that's just under 275,000 for the town and 323,000 for the schools.
That's
Okay.
fairly fair.
That's pretty fair, and
Yep.
you're under the 600,000. I mean,
Yep.
just barely, but you're
Yeah.
under it.
And the
fair.
thing of it is the big items for the highway, and I feel really good about that. We're talking, I'm just rounding it off, we're talking $130,000, right?
For,
For replacement of the
truck
plow and
and
the
the
mower
mower.
vac. I would say if you would put that off a year, you'd be over 150,000, so we're actually gonna be saving money.
given the national conditions, I agree
Yeah.
with you.
Even without that,
An asteroid could hit us next week.
but I'm just saying,
hoping.
even, even without the tariffs,
I'm not.
everything's gonna go up every year 10 to 30%.
Now, are we just kicking that can down the road? Now we're gonna have
Yes.
same problem tomorrow.
Yes.
A little bit, but
Next year, yeah.
Yeah.
on a couple of these things we are, but we're also asking the school to kick the can down the road too.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
think it's fair that we kick the seal coat and the study down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
those-
Yeah,
So we gotta change that library vote, right?
Amended motion.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we amend the motion that we made about the library and that we approve.
Take
two-
out no asbestos.
Take out the 4180 for asbestos study.
Yeah,
Correct. So that gives you a total of 46,403 for the library.
that gives us a total of what, 46,000?
And I'm
403.
hoping we gain some money when these
Oh, my
things go
numbers are
out
all off.
to bid and,
I don't
Yeah.
have the door in my list.
The door I have is 21,294.
In the new one, she has it.
You have the door, I don't.
Oh.
That's why I was.
Ah.
Oh.
So every number I've quoted to you guys all evening is totally wrong. Sorry.
well, thank you.
So,
By
Acknowledgement.
$20,000, so I'm so glad Kristen
so
was here.
I will,
Because I would have been like, hey, we're well
I
under
was-
budget.
I will second that motion
To amend,
to amend.
okay. For the total that Kristen just listed of
46,403.
46,000.
Right.
Okay, any discussion? Oh, you second, any discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay,
Now you need to do highway.
now, highway, not school?
let's do the highway.
Okay, so I make a motion that we vote to approve highway, for everything but the seal coat. So that's 77,000 in building sidewalk repairs, 95,000 for the F-450 replacement, and 39,500 for the mower vac system replacement, for a
And
total
hoping they get-
of,
Hoping they get better prices.
yeah, always.
Sorry, I have to take
No.
the door out, so give me 1 second, because I realized the door, I'm looking in a panic, realizing the
Oh.
door was in my price. $211,500 for the repairs, the sidewalk repairs, the F-450,
Yep,
and the mower vac.
right.
Okay.
211,500.
Does anybody want to second it?
Oh, second.
Okay, any discussion?
I think that's been killed.
Yeah, right? We've done a lot of discussing today,
Beat it
man.
to death.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, now if you wanna go back to the schools,
Okay,
in order to get to, sorry, my computer is yelling at me because I hit save.
So let's do BMS first, so we're gonna do, well, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that we fund, elevator controls for 192,000, add replace cameras for 45,000.
For a total of 237,000.
second. Discussion?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
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 I'm fading quick, so.
Yeah.
Me
We're
too.
almost done.
Alright, so, do you want me to do the next one too?
And then the first two for Tohoto.
Yep.
I'll do the next one too. 'cause
Okay,
I
do it.
know he is getting tired too.
I'm
Alright.
really hungry.
Make the motion that, at Tohoto, we fund the 206, no, it's not 206, is it?
No,
70, I'm looking at the total. What's,
Yeah, yeah.
what's the number?
73,542
Okay,
for furniture and 12,460 for auditorium
Right.
projector and controller.
I was
for
on
a
the wrong
total-
page.
I have a total of $86,002 for that half of for that portion of our Tohoto budget.
Oh, I kept the old ones in there. That's why that number was so high. No, wait a minute. Yes, I'm sorry. 86,
Okay.
now I'm getting tired. $86,002, yes. For a total of $323,002
For schools.
for Berlin Boylston.
I second that.
Okay, discussion? Nope, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I will triple check all of these numbers tomorrow.
Okay.
Would you like to meet again next week to do the warrant? Or do you wanna just, there's only like 2 articles, I don't know if you wanna just get through them now.
I know, I'd like to wait.
You'd like to,
Let's do it
I'm kinda
next
beat.
week and
I've been up since 4.
Fair.
Could you send us the 2 articles?
Yes, they're in here, I can just tell you if you want. Article 3,
How long is it gonna take us to do this?
just a minute,
Well, I just
not
want
long.
to know,
Okay.
to think about it.
It's really Article 3,
we also have to discuss
and CPA,
CPA.
yes.
I feel like there was something else, but now I have forgotten.
I know I saw something that was said to me was highlighted.
Oh, that was just that was,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
You guys normally vote on CPA?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So
It
then it
has-
would
part
be,
It
of
really
their-
has
it's-
no impact.
No, it doesn't. They do what they wanna do.
Yeah,
So
but we're
then-
supposed to advise.
okay, so that
It's
would
in
be
there.
but do we
Sure.
usually put it in the warrant, the vote from capital? On
Yes.
CPA? Okay, so then it would be 14, 15, and 16.
What was it again? I'm sorry?
3,
What was it about 3 that we had to take a,
it's
Reads the library.
repurposing funding that was for, it's repurposing funding that was for design and engineering of the library to do interior improvements.
It's not in the attic, is it?
No, it's in that, underutilized space within the building.
Yeah, what would that be?
The library would be able to put all the books in the children's room, create a gathering space for teenagers, a seating area, and a meeting room space. The expenses are for shelving, furniture, and paint for the lower level. Not anything crazy. But they have 14,000 left over in an article from 2006 from design and engineering of a new library that they would like to spend.
second?
I make a motion that we approve Article 3, transferring $14,775 already in the library fund into a fund in order to,
Do what I
Update
just
the
said.
library.
yeah, do what Kristen just said. Update the library, make it more usable
Friendly.
that you can for $14,000.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
We've had discussion.
I know.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those in
Aye.
favor say aye.
Unanimous.
Okay.
I can do CPA in 5 minutes. Can you hold on 5
Yep.
minutes? Article 14, Community Preservation Act, Conservation Commission, $30,000 to do a parking lot and access to Horseshoe Pond and the Mount Pisgah Trail Network. What they are doing, I don't have the description here yet, but they are literally creating a parking space and an accessible walkway and viewing area where there will be a lovely bench for people to sit on, and it will have that accessible stuff that the wheelchairs can roll over, and access to the existing trail so that people don't have to park on the road, as I understand is where they're parking now.
Yep. I agree with
So,
that.
that's 30,000 for that. To be spent by the Conservation Commission.
From their CPA funding.
From
CPA
CPA
funded,
funding
yep.
for rec and open,
Space.
space.
Yep.
Yep.
You need to put in a line for capital plan.
Oh, I will.
Okay.
I make a motion that we vote to approve Article 14, the Conservation Commission's use of their Community Preservation Act funding.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, the next is 13,500 to the Historical Commission from the Historical Preservation Fund for what they call accessioning and deaccessioning the town's collection of historical clothing and accessories. Basically, they're going to catalog it and characterize it and go through it and
Have
make
you
it.
ever seen it?
I have
Yeah.
never seen the process, but I understand it's pretty cool.
But you ever seen this?
Oh, the collection? No, I haven't.
That's amazing.
Where is it?
In the 1870s.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, if
I
it's that
love old
cool, then
clothes.
13.5 sounds like short money to
They've
do
got
something
like,
cool.
what, 45, mostly women's outfits.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
It was
Wow.
Joanne Wheeler's private collection, and when she died, the family donated
Yeah,
it.
it's amazing.
Oh,
I mean, that
I'd
should,
love to see that.
any of that should be all protected.
So what this does is it funds a consultant, a professional consultant, who comes in and tells them how to preserve it.
Yep.
And deal with how to store it and what is best for cataloging and archiving the collection, basically.
There's no question, that's a good,
Edie Brewer was the one who had been doing it, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, she
But-
just died.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but it's definitely something that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a highlight of
town history, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, I make a motion that we vote to approve Article 15, the use of historical fundage from Community Preservation Act in order to preserve historical things.
Right.
second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Look how good you guys are. And the last one, if anyone's come up the front stairs of 1870, I've almost fallen down them
You
several
don't,
times.
you don't even have
While
to
going
read it.
Going up and down.
You don't have to read it.
This is to redesign and repair, and also we want to kind of wrap it around with the
Yeah.
side entrance and
Well,
make it
first
better.
repair it. If
Yep.
there's any money left, then go fancy around the corner. But
Right. Well, this is to design it, and then we have to come back for money to do it. This is phase one.
Yeah, that's actually a lot of work.
10 grand.
Which article is this?
Article
16.
16, and
It's
it
down the
comes
bottom
out of,
right of
Page
page 8.
9.
Got it, yeah.
comes out of historic preservation through CPA.
See, these are the type of things I don't mind spending money on. You know, the CPA thing.
Is that a motion, sir?
Yeah,
Yes.
I make the motion that we
Great.
accept the Article 16 for $10,000 to, for the 1870
Stair
What is it?
design.
stair design.
Second. Discussion?
Uh,
All, oh, you
No,
gonna say
no, I was
something?
gonna say, I was ready to
All
say
those in
aye.
favor say aye.
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 What about,
Aye.
what about the
A unanimous vote.
13? Was that part of ours?
Oh, that's their budget. Do you want to approve their budget?
I don't think we have to approve
I don't
their
think
budget.
No, I don't think so
No,
either.
That's what they
That's not
spend their
for
money on.
projects.
I
That's
just saw
just their bucket.
CPA on it.
I'm curious, the transferring the Legion Hall, since we're supposed to be aware of all our capital items that the town owns.
So it's still owned by the town. It's
It
just
just
being
moved to-
transferred to the trust.
Okay,
There's no monetary exchange,
Yeah.
and it still is a town asset that would have to be put out to bid and go through an RFP process and all of that,
Okay.
yada yada.
so no, we don't have to talk about that.
Let me
don't
just,
think
let me
so.
just ask a quick question, because I know everybody wants to get out of here, but the old fire station, I've been
Yeah.
catching so much flack in that thing.
Why?
Yeah, why you?
Because I hang around with the old cronies in the
Okay.
town.
Are you one of the ones at the general store? on the
Yeah,
corner?
I-
Oh, yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's you, okay.
Has that been, that we only decided to transfer monies to tear it down?
Correct.
It hasn't been approved to be torn down
It
yet?
has been approved to be torn down.
Oh, it
That
has.
is a select board decision. They
Oh,
are the
okay, so-
custodians of the buildings.
Because people have been
And
saying,
you voted for it too. Capital voted for it.
To tear it
yes,
down?
yeah, but,
It was not a unanimous.
no, it wasn't.
no, no.
And you
No.
know something? Everybody just says, and I tried to explain to everybody that,
What
well,
did they explain to you? 'Cause
I know, actually, what I tried to explain to everybody is, why can't we store stuff in there? And like I said, listen, the roof needs to be replaced. If anybody uses it, there's no fire suppression, so if something is in there and stored and it catches on fire, the insurance company's not gonna pay it.
There's no heat, and there's structural issues with the
Yeah,
Right.
but I'm just saying is,
Electrical issues also.
and it looks like a good building, but it's, and I'm just not saying using it for people to have meetings or anything, but even to store stuff, it doesn't make any sense. Trying to tell these guys that.
You're
You've
gonna
been
have
there.
things leak
Yes,
on it
yeah.
and not be heated or properly climatized. That's not good for storing things.
No, and like I said, if anything happens, the insurance is not gonna cover anything that's inside there. Plus, we pay insurance on it.
I
Yeah,
thought
but
we-
you're paying-
we
That'll save
voted
us some
to take it
insurance
down,
money.
no?
You're paying very, very little.
Doesn't matter, the stage of the game.
Okay.
What did we figure out?
It might
was?
matter if somebody's inside of
1,500?
it when it burns down.
Yeah.
No,
If it
'cause
burns.
they'd be on the same floor. It would be me, don't
Oh,
worry about it.
No, it's not gonna be
Well, that
you.
was a
Don't
very
say
productive
that.
meeting.
Whose house on River Road burned?
One,
We should
Julie
close the
Malloy.
Oh,
meeting
yes, sorry.
Before we talk about
I
names.
totally, yes, before we should.
Where is this?
I'm gonna adjourn us now at 9:12.
You should take a motion
PM.
to adjourn.
Oh, we take a motion to adjourn?
You
I'm gonna
do.
make a motion to adjourn. I have just been unilaterally kingly
I second it.
ending. All those in favor say aye.
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 So we're now adjourned.